Okay, we are now recording. Notice that the class is spinning out, so going to have to resort to signage. Remember, that's 10% of your grade is participations. Easy points that you can lose very easily. All right, so just sign in. All right. Yeah, so we've got two labs kind of right this week. We have the firewalls lab. You guys had some questions on. So when is that one due? Did I create? Hmm? Tomorrow? All right. So let's take a look at that. So I can demo that one. Start there, I suppose. So I think you guys had set the netcat part. And then so let's go. Yeah. So and then of course DNS lab. Obviously this one much larger as you can see, not difficult exactly. Just think of it as a lot of moving parts, right? So this involves a lot more coordination, some abstraction. And so we're going to, you know, you know, but it should be a fun one to do. My goal for today, we'll start with the firewalls part, and then once we finish the firewalls part, we will discuss the DNS. Essentially, I think we've done DNS client already, and so we will just do the DNS server, go over that. It's kind of a tutorial, really, but we got to get that bind working. All right, so I guess let's start with host-based firewalls here so we can take a look at it. Remember, read through all the materials that have been provided, but essentially we were looking at the Word doc. So this one, Word document. Okay. Yeah. All right, so let me grab my notes. Got the notes here. Um, for the firewall. All right, so I'm pretty sure we did like the first 40 bullets of this that was completed. You had to go into ICMP and you guys had to change this word from accept to drop, right? And then ping wouldn't work. So are there any questions on this part? Seems okay, so that's straightforward. Block an IP address. I remember some of you were working on this one in class. So I assume everything is okay there. All right. So that takes us then to the extremely versatile netcat utility. So this has to do with creating this concept that you hear a lot about in networking called tunnels, right? And you have, people say, oh, I created a tunnel, right? And all it is packets that have a specific header that allow them to go through things. You will learn later on in other classes like 454 network security that you can have firewall rules and you can actually bypass firewall rules by creating special tunnels through them, just changing the nature of the packet and so on, right? So that VPNs are tunnels, SSH is a tunnel, everything is just, the idea is to wrap headers around these packets. Okay, but in this example, we're just going to do a very simple. This is not going to be encrypted. At the end of the semester, there is a file system analysis lab that also uses these ideas again of creating the tunnel. Okay. All right, so you can do lots of very, very fun tricks. Like I had a friend who left like an organization and he just left a tunnel from within the company to some outside server, and then he could always get into the machines. I mean, if you know what you're doing and people don't know, you can get away with lots of it. Very interesting. Thank you. Very interesting things. All right, so let's read through the material of netcat. This is essentially a chat, right? So that's really what we're looking at. Yeah, and then there was the scripting problem as well, and some additional problems that you had to work through. So let's read through it. But if I remember correctly, what makes sense with netcat initially is to make like a simple little chat. So netcat has got to be one of the most versatile tools ever created for troubleshooting networks. It is frequently referred to as the Swiss Army knife of network diagnostics. Okay. So, remember this course is about sysadmin. And so to learn all the tools that you can play with. So this is one of them. We will use the tool to test another concept of a firewall in this example. In this setup, you will need two VMs. Get the host name of the seed VM on 1204. When I say 1204, I just mean whatever version it is. I think we're up to 2004 now. Ping the seed VM, then use ARP. The point is you run these commands to try to get the address that we need to use. So we'll have to figure that out. We will use the nc.traditional for the example. If it is not installed, you'll have to download it. So first, example one, the first thing we want to do is we want to establish a simple connection between the machines. So, this is kind of how these programs work, right? So you start the service like netcat or SSH, and you tell it, for instance, here, -L means listen, and then you specify a port like 1, 2, 3, 4. So essentially you tie a program to this port number and now it's listening. Then on another machine, you can also use netcat. You just have to find that machine and you basically connect to that port 1, 2, 3, 4. And essentially you have a connection. That's what's going on. And obviously, that's what you're trying to do. If connection was established, you should be able to type something on one machine and see it on the other. So like a basic chat, right? So if you ever wanted to create your own chat, you can easily do it, with servers, with tools such as this. All right, and then you'll kill the connection. So we'll do example one first and just take a look at this one. I will start the two virtual machines just to kind of illustrate through this, and we're going to try to troubleshoot it and get it to work. So I'll just, call this netcat, chat or something like that. So let's go ahead and start the VirtualBox environment. So hopefully we have fixed up any issues. Here's sign in. Sure. And just pass it. All right. So we are going to go ahead now and start one virtual machine. Okay. Mhm. All right, and the other virtual machine should start also in a second, I believe. Okay, so start at the end, sign in. Okay, so here we have one virtual machine. Okay, starting. It's still setting. If I can't start the other one. Right. Stuck in there. That's a bit slow. Okay, finally. Let's log in. The other one. All right, so it shouldn't be difficult, right? Hopefully. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ping between the VMs, establish the IPs, and then I'm going to try to use netcat to uh, connect, and then we're just going to get a chat going. So obviously from this one, we don't want firewall rules in there. We just want to prove first that it works. Then we're going to think through the next problem and how do we add a rule and test the functionality essentially. All right. So the command should be essentially this is just talking about netcat. Um, we can use the uname that this looks like uname. If I'll try the IPs actually directly, and I'll get notes for that. But we just need to designate which machine is sort of listening and which one is connecting, right? Uh, Designate the first one. So I'm just going to run this command, C dot, netcat, whichever version. Using netcat traditional on port 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's okay, here we are. So I have a terminal. So I'm going to open up the terminal. All right, so I'm going to open up the terminal. Let's take a look at the IPs. All right. This one decided to connect finally. Right, finally here. OS-L, okay, clear. And let's take a look at the other one. Okay, great. That's great. Great. That's great. All right, so I'm gonna do ifconfig on this one. All right, so it's got the IP, right? So at least. Didn't want to start here. Not sure why. Start it again. Give it a minute. I don't know. Any questions so far? You can go ahead and try it yourselves. You know, PMs just hate me this semester. So we are trying netcat here. Pardon? And not, okay. What do you mean? Probably don't have enough memory is what you're saying, right? How do I do that? What you're saying? Which ones have less memory? All right. So, all right, I'll leave it like that for now. Thanks, Tony. All right, so IF config. All right, so this one has 10.0.2.15. Now let's start pinging. 10.0.2.4. Okay, so I can ping. So now I'm going to go to 10.0.2.4. This one, I'm going to ping 10.0.2.15. And I can ping. All right, so good. So we have connection. The firewall is down, I believe, on both of these machines. So let's go from this one. I have ping. Yeah, from 10.0.2.4, let's follow the a handout which says NC traditional dash L dash P 1 2 3 4. All right, so I'm going to just try NC traditional. All right, so you can see I have this program. I don't know if you guys have it. Did you get the same thing? If you do, then you do have it. That's good. All right, so now I'm trying it out. So the flag, so dash L. Remember that when you grab a port number, sometimes if you try to grab it again or something, it's kind of like locked for a little while. So just give it a different port number. So in this case, I think it says dash P 1 2 3 4, and it has to be obviously an existing port number. So in essence, it's listening now on the network. We see what I'm saying? So now I'm going to go to the other VM, 10.0.2.15. All right, so that would be this one, 10.0.2.15, and C traditional. C traditional. Okay, and let's take a look at the command in the handout. So it just says the destination that you're trying to connect to and the port number, right? So I want to go by IP. So I believe it would be 10.0.2.4. So let's try it like that. And then it would be port number 1 2 3 4. Okay, so no errors, no issues. So then do we have a chat? That's the question, right? Do we have a chat? So, you can say, hello, is this a chat? All right, and you write this. So this is from 10.0.2.15. So we go to 10.0.2.4, which is this one over here. And what do you guys see? You have a chat. So now you can reply back and you can say, yes, this is chat, but not AI driven. So you can see how you can just link a large language model here and essentially have a chat with a chatbot. So But anyway, so you can do, yes, this is a chat, but not AI driven. Okay, so I replied back. I go to the other machine, and yes, this is a chat, but not AI. Okay, so we've established a chat using netcat, the versatile tool, created a tunnel between two virtual machines. You know, so this is unencrypted, but you could always do this on top of SSH, and then now you have an encrypted tunnel. So that's totally doable. And there will be a lab at the end of the semester. The bonus lab includes that. And like I said, a lot of these tools are just shown to you in this class, and you will be using them more extensively in your related security classes. All right, so that's problem one done. Okay. So now let's go to the next problem. So it's, kill the connections here, it says basically, but we demonstrated that it works, right? Example two, now go to desktop of one of the VMs and listen, but now listen, and everything should be redirected to a file such as foo.txt. Create a file called bar.txt, add a message, and then you're going to send that file from one machine to the other machine. So we're playing around with the tunnel one more time. And you're going to check the contents of foo.txt to ensure that you have actually sent some data to it. And was the data transferred? Obviously, that's what you need to corroborate. Now enable the UFW firewall. So bullet 28 is where we start now, trying to prevent these things through the firewall to get an understanding of a rule or something such as that. But let's do this example two. So let me see if I understand. So the port, okay, so it listens on port. So I'm going to go to 1204. Oops, go here. I'm going to kill this chat now, and I'm just going to start a new one. If the port is locked, I just use another one. So obviously, I want to navigate to my desktop so I can find all my files. So I'm going to do ls-l. We are. And then it should be ITS 372 spring 2020. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter here. I'm going to hit clear, ls-l. All right. This is we can do this probably. We can just do it here because we're not going to make that many files. So foo is going to be created here. Any questions, guys? We're going to create foo here. So again, let's do ifconfig just to see where we are. 1204, pwd, that's the path. Now I'm going to do nc.traditional, dash L dash P 1234, and I believe we redirect to foo.txt. Okay, so let's confirm that I have the command correct. So direction is important there. We are sending out to foo.txt. Okay. All right. So let's okay. The tunnel is up and it's running. It's working. Now we're going to go to the other virtual machine. Oh, and then this one I still send. We have to do the same thing here. All right, yeah. Ph.D. You can see I've done this several times. Let's call it bar 4. Bar 4 txt. I'm going to open it with nano. It's best to put some data in here. So I'm going to say, hello, this is some text for the chat. That's it. All right, so we're going to try that. It's in a data over in bar 4. There. So now, let me clear this a little bit. All right, so we need to do the other command and just send it out. Remember, these are just old packets going, so, we'll have to think about it, but it's pretty straightforward. Same thing. So let's do nc.traditional. The IP is 10.0.2.4 on port 1234, and then we send in bar 4.txt. Like that. Does that make sense? So now we've done that. Look for the file. So I'm gonna just I don't want to kill this yet, so I'm gonna just create another open another terminal. Navigate to the desktop. I'm going to navigate to ITS 372 spring 2020. And my foo file is there. We want to look at the contents of it. So it's got 45 or so bytes in it. Okay. We're going to cat foo.txt. Yeah. Oh, this is some tag for the chat. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. This one. Any questions, guys? All right. So the two examples just demonstrate the use of the use. All right. So let's what's that? Any questions? Oh, okay. Make sure you ping first and make sure that you can ping. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's essentially the two examples of using netcat, one sent transferring data, one with having a chat. They're basically the same thing. That shows you the functionality of it. Now the next problem is likely to be related to the firewall. And it's probably just one firewall problem. So let's take a look at this one. So we finished this one until here, right? We transfer the data. Was the data transfer? Yes. Now, bullet 28, now enable the UFW firewall on 1204. Okay. So we're going to enable the UFW firewall. Okay. So we're going to repeat the previous file transfer. Does it work? Why? So let's do sudo UFW status verbose. So where do we establish? I'm going to do this on 1204. One is sending. One is listening. So I'm going to do it here. Sudo UFW enable. Okay. Firewall is active and enabled on system startup. ANSI traditional is listening on port 1234. Okay. So now I'm going to go to the other one. right? Do you guys follow what I'm doing? Yeah. All right. And make a comment if you see something. So here now what I want to do is I want to change the contents of bar so I can make sure. So I'm going to do nano bar 4 text, and I'm going to change this text, and I'm going to add just something that's unique. So I'm going to say something like blue, green, yellow, red, right? So something that's obvious if it was sent or not. I'm going to do Control X, Y. All right. Now I'm going to try to transfer it. So NC traditional 10024 1234. Okay. So this 20, 20, 20, 200115 does not have the firewall enabled, right? So the data should have gone. Let's imagine what's happening. It gets to 10024 on port 1234, which it's listening on, right? And the question is, how does the firewall behave in this scenario, right? So do we add a rule that blocks it, etc. So let's take a look at what happened here on this side, right? Was listening. So we have to check foo again. What do you guys think? Based on this, what would you say about so I'm doing ls dash l, foo is there, okay, but it's 0, right? If you look, no data was sent. Any questions? So we could say currently it seems like the firewall blocked it, the fair agreement. All right, so let's now enable that you've done that. Repeat the previous transfer. We've done that. Does it work? Why? Right. Hint. Sudo UFW status verbose. So sudo UFW status verbose. Sudo UFW status verbose. Right. And it's active. Yeah. So we know what's on. So repeat the previous file transfer. No, we've done that. If it did not work after turning on the firewall, what rule could you add to allow this transfer? So that's the key problem. Remember, these are types of problems or questions I will have on exam 2. So exam 2 is comprehensive, but definitely here's an example of you know, of nice little problems I can give. All right, so it did not work after, if it did not work, what rule could you add? And then it's going to UFW verbose, run the transfer again, doesn't work, report your results. And so on. So what do you guys think? Yeah, you have the rule. Allow that port. Okay. How do I do that? Sudo UFW. Oops. Allow. Once before you said. What do you guys think? Try this one. Yeah. But allow out is, yeah, it would be from 215. Could be allow in. You have to think there's rules from when the packet is going in a router from a network interface to another network interface, or when a packet is coming and ending at that machine. But that machine could also initialize packets going out. You have to think kind of like that, right? So sudo UFW allow 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. I don't know, right? Let's try it. Pardon? This rules it so the rules actually is very important that you specify by default, I think they go to input. That's kind of because UFW is uncomplicated. But if you're doing this in IP tables, you have to say which table this goes on. Does it go, is it a going out thing? Is it a coming in thing? But by default, I believe UFW is just for, it's just made for local hosts and things like that. But it makes sense that the focus of it is coming in. So let's try this one. Sudo UFW allow 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We're gonna verbose. All right. So allow in 1, 2, 3, 4 anywhere. So a packet is going to come in, hit that. Everything else will be blocked. But that one might be allowed. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. So let's try it out again. NC traditional food. I need to go to 2015 here. IF config. All right. 10.0.2.15. 10.0.2.4. Traditional. Oh, and I want to change that. Well, actually, it never went in there, right? So now if it goes in, it's fine. So I don't have to change the file. So, all right. So I set bar 4. Now we go over here. All right, so those are our rules. We want to look at the file. Who does have data now before? Cat who? What do you guys think? Will it work, correct? Do you guys understand? All right. Good. Yeah, so that's the example. We've done one example, fun one. We've looked at netcat. We've looked at putting in the rules in here. So, and then we have another example that's use netcat to create a shell on a remote machine. You can use another port such as 1, 2, 3, 4, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, 5. So essentially what you're doing is you're going to, so this is a very fun, very interesting one, actually. So here, you're creating a shell. This is when a hacker attacks or something like that, this is what they want to get. You have to think about that. So what it's going to try to serve is the terminal type command system. You can see that um, you are serving bin.sh, which is the bash. And then you connect to it, and then basically you run the commands. Now turn on the firewall, does it work? No, I will allow it. So I will demo until here, and I will leave a rule for you guys to figure out, which I'm sure you can. Okay. All right. But I'll demo this one. I do think this is really nice. Problem similar. What I have to do is serve dash even sh. Let's do that. So then clear ls dash l. Oh, no, actually. All right. So NC traditional 1, 2, 3, 4 dash e bin sh bin sh. So now this terminal is essentially serving, this netcat is essentially serving the terminal. So I'm going to go to the other machine, 215. Let's connect to this one, clear. All right, oops. Clear, okay, I'm going to do NC traditional, just going to connect to it. So I have this. So now the thing is, it's supposed to be serving the command line. So if I type the commands, they should work. And they do. You guys see that? So W, you know, Uptime. So when a hacker takes on a system, this is literally what they want. They want to just run that command, establish it. Now the question is, and this is the ultimate power, what username do they have? Because obviously they would want that terminal, but also they want the root privilege. Okay, and getting that root privilege is difficult actually, as Bash has a lot of security mechanisms to keep that locked up. But if they can, they took over the machines. Any questions? Right, makes sense. All right, so that kind of completes this introduction, this discussion of netcat. So we're going to go over here. Clear here. I'm going to go over here and clear, right? And I'm going, so that's clear. I'm going to kill the other one. All right, there we are. Hit clear. So now, as I said, we've completed until 47. Go ahead and do homework, complete these. The next one is scripting. You should be able to do this. Simple example, write a Python script that can add rules to the UFW firewall to block a specific IP address and a port. The IP address and port should be given via the command line. When you are done with this lab, perform the following: remove all rules, disable firewall, and so on. So that it doesn't affect your future labs. Remember that you put in a whole bunch of rules in there. Don't leave them in there. You know. But yeah, so this you should be able with subprocess or something like that. You should be able to write this script to add a couple of rules via Python to the UFW firewall. I'll leave this problem for you guys. Any questions? No. All right. And then I wrote some additional problems for you to play with. Let's just do them. Implement a UFW rule that blocks traffic by protocol. All right. So that's going to be a bit more challenging. So TCP, UDP, something like that. And we have to create a scenario to test this. And then block service requests on port 80, but not port 22. This is a harder one because essentially, you're blocking by one port, but other ports short. If you think about it here, so this might be like who rules for the order matters. Now, one thing I will say is once you implement this rule, you can disable it. You don't have to like leave one and then also worry about other rules in two because I didn't really think about it. So they could actually conflict with each other. So just try one, make sure it works, everything, and be done with it. Then move on to have a fresh, clear, start flush out all the rules from your firewall and implement. So, does this make sense? You have to, so something like you just so in your example, we try out the web for 80, and that should work. But when you try 22 as the same, that doesn't work. Okay. All right. Great. So that, any other questions on UFW? Great. So we're going to move on next. Let me. Right. I'm going to end this here.